So I just first wanted to thank Tomas and MK and Sharon for putting on this event tonight. So, and thank you for inviting me as well. So I'm going to read a few poems. The first one is called Pep Talk. I accomplish things. I fill bottles with water, wash starch from rice, spin lettuce, sometimes spinach to help it dry. I slice a thin piece of cheese, put it on a cracker, feed it to my wife, who is doing 3 things at once. I am learning. Her seconds are longer than mine. I boil water, turn tofu so it won't burn. I fold the damp dish towel, tuck it into the oven's handle, thankful for the work the leftover heat from the oven will do. I lock the door, check the stove, turn off lights as cobwebs form. Dust gathers dust. I am learning what Argentine ants know. Nothing stops other things from happening. This is called Doubt. Oh, the certainty with which we speak about Kabul and bailouts. Oh, the certainty with which maps unroll, waves curl under, leave words gasping for new words. Should not, salt water in our mouth. This one is called Kafka in Chinese, and I wrote it shortly after, a few weeks after the Gulf oil spill. So called Kafka in Chinese. These days, along most of the Gulf Coast, fishing is prohibited. No exceptions, no permits to be had, not at night, not on a boat, not where the oil is not visible. Doesn't matter which landrew you know. Thus, the Gulf Coast fishermen have developed the souls of sharecroppers who've read Kafka in Chinese. They know they cannot admit to doing what they are doing, which is what they've always done. So they say things like, I am not here. But if I was here, I just caught a hypothetical trout that will taste very good after it is clean. I will not eat it, and I will surely enjoy how delicious it is. How deliciously lifeless in my mouth. This they will not be denied. The fishermen on the Gulf Coast who have the hearts of Gulf Coast fishermen and the stomachs of Job will not be denied their fish, their past, their way of spending nights. They will not give up their way of talking or of drinking perfectly American beer out of perfect aluminum cans to wash down perfectly a perfect cheekful of raw shrimp. Except for what isn't, everything is perfect. This is called After All. It's amazing. After all that's happened, flies still fly, windows be damned. Birds nest. We still have the shade of our shadow to keep us cool. This is called When in Paris. It starts with a quote by a 17th century Spanish writer named Pedro Calderón de la Barca. These are his words. I am dreaming and I want to do good, for the good you do is never lost, not even in dreams. So that quote got me thinking. I slept well last night, made no mistakes. I did not dream of ex-girlfriends, nor did I feed the bears. I ignored billboards imploring me to drink whiskey. I made not a single knot I could not myself untie. I did not leave the heater on, nor the oven. When I left the house, I remembered everything. When in Paris, I did not walk on the grass. On Fifth Avenue, I may have looked up, but not for very long. As Sharon said, I teach young men, teenage boys. I never know how to refer to them as teenage boys or young men. They're totally both. And they're locked up in the juvenile justice system. So the next 3 pieces are inspired by them. This is called It Is Common Knowledge. A gun and our past are stashed in a shoebox beneath the staircase. It is common knowledge inside Section 8. The cops don't come unless shots are fired, and a dozen people call it in. The cops don't come until after the paramedics have left. The cops don't come, and neither do the doctors or grocers, bankers or bakers, to the part of town where the kids learn what they need to. They feel most days they have more in common with Vietnam vets asking for change next to freeway off-ramps than with their contemporaries listening to hip-hop in the hills. This is called Potemkin. Sometimes they are restless like sailors on a battleship craving good red meat. Sometimes they are reckless like sailors on a battleship ready to mutiny. More often they are neither. They are boys in jail, sitting on wooden planks, waiting for permission to piss, to sip from a fountain. It's called Naughty and Nice. Against the litany of put-downs, the common kind you can't fight, the less common you can't read, and the seasonal variety you can't carol, the half-Samoan, half-Cherokee kid didn't have a chance. Neither did Santa Claus visiting today's Aristotle's at yesterday's hall. Poor old man, after all these years, doesn't need a pillow, still passing out candy canes like it's the 20th century. Lucky he got away only being taunted with the philosopher's question. Where's my iPod? Okay, so those were some of the ones inspired by my students. This just goes on to other kinds of poems. This is called Scientists. I don't, but we know a great deal about the contours of the ocean floor and the contents of stars. And I can barely make it through most Sundays without long stretches of watching grown men act like children, then acting like one myself. So I'm going to read 3 more, and the next 2 are related, interestingly enough, to becoming a father. The first one, hypothetically, a while back before it seemed like a reality, and then the second one, more recently since my wife became pregnant. This one has a long title, so bear with me, the first one. True story, back porch, the holidays, no one was injured. Nonetheless, my great fear, both symbolic and otherwise, when I contemplate the weight of home ownership and fatherhood. So that's the title. It's almost as long as the poem itself. With hopes of let me start that again. With hopes of showing his son snow melt before his eyes, a father hooked up a blowtorch to a 20-pound propane cylinder. But that damnable word that dots all our graves and digs all our eyes, he got too close, ignited the vinyl siding, and set fire to the house they sort of liked, but from the beginning were unable to afford. And this one is for my wife. This was after the first ultrasound, which was at about 8 weeks, and it's called What's Left. When she says, do you see its little head, the beginnings of arms and legs? I am returned to an age when I was told I could see Poseidon's violin, or whatever it was I was supposed to see in the stars. It never made sense to me. It just seems like you could point out any group of stars, or look at the first ultrasound and say, do you see Willie Mays with his back to the infield? Do you see Lincoln at Ford's Theater, or Dizzy's Cheeks, or Haymarket Square? Do you see what's left of Michigan or Kentucky? Do you see Vanzetti's mustache, Sacco's wrist? Do you see Emma shaking her fist? So when she says, do you see the heart fluttering, all I see is a bear catching trout. I see the Mississippi. And this is the last poem I'm going to read. It's called Go Not With God, But With the Handy. And that's where the idea initially came from. I was always taken by this phrase, you know, people say go with God or vaya con Dios. And then I was thinking about it and thinking, you know, I'd really if I'm in a tough situation, I would want to go with my friend Willie, because he's just handy, and that's who I would want to be with. So, and then that got all wrapped up in the title, so I still needed to write something under the title, so this is what I wrote. Go with soap, warm water. Go with a spoon, with shoes, with a chair, beer, books, bricks, a Band-Aid. Go with pen, paper, with memories, riddles, a rhyme, with 2 oars. Go with candle, dry matches. Thank you very much.